Good afternoon, everyone. It is Saturday, October the 26th, 2019. It is currently 2:45 p.m. Central Time, and this is a live broadcast for the VBC 66 app. A live broadcast. I stress that because some will hear the recording of this live broadcast, and so I like them to know exactly what is going on. If you would like to listen to the live broadcast when they're actually live, please go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and do a search for VBC, which stands for Victory Baptist Church, the number 66, run it all together, VBC 66, and get the app. Now, for those who already have the app, and for those who may get the app later today or whenever you hear this, a couple of things to remember, a couple of things to pay close attention to. We are in the process of transitioning the app from one platform, Custom Church Apps platform, and it's going to be transitioned to the Subsplash platform. And the reason why is, Custom Church Apps, is merging with Subsplash, which is a company that is probably, the company that is known for probably maintaining and building some of the apps for some of the biggest churches in the United States of America and some very big ministries. So our church will now be on that platform. It's going to cost us a little bit more, so that's unfortunate, but I think we'll be able to maintain the app without any difficulty, hopefully. So just be praying for that. It's going to be, the transition has not been smooth, let's just say. We've got kind of I've already seen the new app and got to kind of mess with it. Right now it's missing all the content from the previous, so I'm waiting to go, hey, we got to find a way to move all this over, because then no. It's way too complicated for me to sit there and spend 7 years trying to move all the content over. So hopefully they'll get that fixed, and then hopefully it will get reviewed, and then it'll be placed in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And for those who already have the app, you should get a notification to run an update, and then that will get you the new app. But there'll be lots of news and details coming over probably the next 7 to 14 days. Hopefully we can get the transition over. The app hopefully will work better for some people. Hopefully the notification system will work better. And also maybe, playing and other problems that people, it was always Android users who are reporting problems, but hopefully those problems will work, it will work better for Android users and continue working as it has for all Apple users. But get the VBC 66 app and stay tuned, and we'll keep you updated and get you ready to go, and get you the new app and where you can listen to everything and stay up to date. Sounds good? I think that sounds good. All right. So it is Saturday. Now, what I wanted to do was to grab the iPad, hit go live, and work on a passage in Romans chapter 4 that deals with our ongoing discussion at Victory Baptist Church that we've been working on now week after week after week, on this theological problem that we discover when we study the Bible carefully. And that is, the Bible seems to clearly teach that we are justified by faith. At the same time, it seems to clearly teach that we're going to be judged according to our works. And this creates a problem, a dilemma. And we have been working on how to resolve this problem. We've been looking at all the solutions that have been offered up, and we are still struggling. We've come up with a possible solution. We still have a lot of work to do. And I was going to read a passage that could be kind of used to support the theory that I promoted on Wednesday evening. And then I also promoted it earlier on in, I think, a live broadcast. So if you have the VBC 66 app, go to the Romans section. Or if you get the VBC 66 app, go to the Romans section. And just start listening, start thinking, start struggling, because what some people have said is basically, I don't think it's that big of a problem, but it is if you really, 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 really try to be consistent in your theology. So we will be talking about that, and that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to look at a passage in Romans chapter 4. All right, I thought it would be a good devotional study. However, there's too much going on right now to do that. I was interrupted by a news article. So we're going to have to talk about that news article because it relates to what's happening in the culture. Now, I almost feel like what I feel like I should do right now really is pull up a news site and let's just spend the next hour looking at the news because there's so much happening within the culture, within the world at large. So many things that I think people should be paying attention to. So many things I think people should be concerned about. But we'll just do this to make it simple and that this won't turn into a 5-hour broadcast because I'm not getting anybody asking for a 5-hour broadcast, okay? Maybe one or two, but not most, all right? Here we go. A couple of things to consider. When was it? Was it Friday? Did it actually happen on Friday? Well, let me explain. Thursday evenings at 11 p.m. Central Time. That's the time for me here in Abilene, Texas. That's when all the new music drops on all the streaming services like Apple Music, Spotify, etc., etc., etc. And for a music fan, it's an awesome time to be alive in 2019. It's 11 p.m. Central Time. You put on a pair of headphones, you have your music streaming services open, and you're ready to go. And right at 11, everything updates, and here's every new album that drops, and you can listen to it. Back all the years growing up as a diehard, hardcore music fan, there was no way to get into the record store at 11 p.m. Central Time. No, the record stores were closed here in Abilene, Texas, where I live. So I had to wait till the next morning, sometimes 8 a.m., sometimes 9 a.m., sometimes 10 a.m. And on album release days where it was a big album, not always, but most of the time, my mom did not make me go to school, and I got to be at the record store prior to it opening and waiting. And as soon as they unlocked that door, they got to know me. I would come walking in, and they would let me open the box, and I could smell the new record or see the new CDs, and I could buy the one that I wanted. Now, the problem is, there were all kinds of new albums back then, but I could only afford one, maybe two, if I was lucky. 2019, I can listen to all of them. And I typically try to do that because I love music. Now, I say all of that because this Thursday at 11 p.m., the big news was Kanye West, right? Very influential rapper, very influential musical artist. Some will say he changed rap with one of his albums, I think 808s and Heartbreaks. I think some people would say he changed rap forever on that album. We could talk about it. But if you know anything about Kanye West's previous albums, they're filled with all kinds of explicit language, all kinds of content that definitely isn't Christian or could not be promoted or even, really agreed upon from a Christian perspective. But this Thursday at 11 p.m., what he was supposed to have done is release a new album. All day on Apple Music, their 24-hour-a-day radio station, Beats One, that's all they were playing all day. Kanye, talking about it. He did a 2-hour interview with him, and it was all about this new album. And the big news, it wasn't just big news because Kanye was going to drop a new album. It was big news because Kanye was going to release a Christian album, a gospel album. This was big news. How would Christians respond? How would non-Christians respond? What was he going to do? And I made the statement early on that was this going to be an issue where the album was more about the ideology or his belief in Christianity? Was it more about Christianity, Christian ideas, Christian ideology, Christian theology? And was that going to overshadow music? Was he going to give the same care to music over message, right? Was it going to be message over music or music over message, or were they going to be somehow equal? And the reason I bring this up is a lot of times within the Christian world, if a Christian listens to a song and they like the message, then they say the song is great. And then you listen to the song and you go, wait, can you not hear this? A, its production is garbage. B, musical ability is questionable. C, Lyricism, yes, it's got a Christian message, but those are pretty, horrible songwriting skills. And if you question it, then Christians get mad at you and go, this is a wonderful song. This is a wonderful song. I'm like, you like the message. I wouldn't call it a wonderful song, okay? All right, because a song requires not just the message, requires the music. Not just the message, not just the musical ability, how it's structured, how it's put together. It also requires production because you're listening to it. It's something you're listening to, right? So how it's produced, how it sounds, all kinds of things like that comes into play. So I was concerned that, hey, this is going to be like, hey, it's Christian, and he's going to be so focused on the Christian message that the music part could possibly suffer. That was my concern. Well, at 11 p.m., he didn't drop the album. At midnight, he didn't drop the album. At 1 a.m., he didn't drop the album. At 2 a.m., he didn't drop the album. At 3 a.m., you get the idea. It didn't happen. It didn't happen until sometime Friday. I believe it was around noon. I don't even remember what times. So my friend, a friend from Nebraska, he contacted me. He said, hey, the album just dropped. And about the time he messaged me, I'd already hit play. And so, well, the album dropped, and now everyone's been talking about it. Even a pretty well-known Christian website that reviews Christian albums they are going to review the album, and typically they have a pretty strong stance against reviewing anything quote unquote secular. So a lot of Christians are embracing the album, talking about how wonderful it is and how great it is. And so I don't want to go into great detail here because we got a bigger issue to talk about today. But here's what I would say. I'm not a fan of the album for a number of reasons. One, it's about 27 minutes long. And when you hit play, the very first kind of feeling, as I listened to track 1, going into track 2, going into track 3, it feels like it should be structured where the album just has a seamless flow from one song into another song into another song, giving the idea of a kind of a worship service kind of vibe, right? Like, hey, this is going to be a journey into things related to my Christian faith. Kanye saying, here, listen to this journey into my Christian faith. So having the tracks smoothly transition from one track into another, like with a crossfade kind of idea where one fades right into the other. It's seamless, it's structured. Even if you have to create a musical transition so that you can get from one track to the other, it to me would make more sense considering it's only 27 minutes long. But he doesn't do that. The tracks kind of end abruptly. They start abruptly. It just seems broken. It seems like a poorly put together, I don't know. It doesn't work. It looks like it should be structured as a 27-minute seamless flow, and it's not a seamless flow. And that, to me, is a problem, and I believe should be a problem to anyone who listens to it. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, production. Some of this sounds like, it's Kanye West, people. He's got money. He's got backings of large, of record labels. It sounds like it was poorly produced. At times I'm thinking my headphones are broken. I could go all day on the production issues. It doesn't work that way. Number 3. Third problem I have. So the first problem of the album is I think it should flow and be kind of like this stream of consciousness idea or like a worship service. It doesn't. Number 2, production. And then number 3, I really have a major issue here, is the songs kind of start and don't really go anywhere. In fact, most of the tracks are relatively short. And it's like, you're like, oh, okay. Like a song will start, you're like, okay, this is good. But remember, in a song, you have to have a beginning, you have to have a middle, then you have to have a conclusion, right? And they have to either, the beginning builds to the conclusion, or somehow they have to all work together. And it's like, sometimes there are moments in a song that are like, okay, this is good, right? You're like, this is good. Think of it this way. It's like you go to someone's house and they bring out the meal that they're going to serve you, and you're like, oh, that looks really good. And you take that first bite and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is good. But by the second or third bite, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know. This doesn't work. It worked at first, but then it just, and then by the fourth bite, you're done. You're done. Well, in a way, that's how some of the songs started. It started off, you're like, oh, this sounds good. But then by the middle part or the conclusion of the song, it's just like, okay, that's it. It just felt empty. It felt, it's like where's the rest? Where's the rest? That's what I kept saying. I kept wanting more. So that's so problem number one. There's no transitions. Problem number two, production. Problem number three, the songs just seem to be, all of them seem not to be a complete work. They seem to be missing something. All right, and then ultimately. I guess, and this is not, I'm not going to use this necessarily as a criticism on the album, but just from a lyrical standpoint, it doesn't really say much. There's not really a lot there. I've heard lots of Christian albums say a whole lot more. All right. I've seen Christian albums in some cases say a whole lot less. I've seen some Christian albums that say less, but they say less better than what he said. And I've seen Christian albums say a whole lot more and say more better. It's just 27 minutes of, okay. All right. Yeah. He talks about Jesus. Yeah. He has some interesting lines. There's some parts where it's pretty good, but then there's other parts you're just kind of like, okay, let's go a little further with this. Okay, come on. I mean, it's Kanye West, right? He's almost a legend. A legend should be able to take his Christian faith and produce songs that have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and have something there that says something substantial about his Christian faith. I was looking for something far more epic, something far more substantial, something with far more substance. When I got done, I was like, that's it? Really? I could find other Christian rap. In fact, here's the thing: from a production standpoint, there are plenty of Christian rap albums that have better production. From a song structure point, where they actually work, there are Christian albums that have far better song structure and are more complete. As far as flowing, that whole flowing idea, I've heard Christian albums that flow, one transitioning right into another, and they do it a whole lot better. And these are very unknown artists with very limited money, self-produced albums. So I don't think he says anything there that I mean, there are, and let me be fair. I don't have all the lyrics in front of me, but there are points in the album. There are lyrics in the album that are interesting, that are okay, that you could discuss, but there's not enough. And even then, it's like one line in a song. It's not the totality of the song. Which again, just seems like at times a lot of this was just like, it's like a lot of ideas thrown together, but nothing really comes together. I was extremely disappointed. I've been extremely critical. Other people are acting like it's amazing. Here's the thing. I think if you take Kanye's name off of it, people wouldn't be near as positive. And number two, I think some people are positive just because he says Jesus, and then all of a sudden it's positive. Listen, just because you sing about Jesus, your music, critique of your music doesn't get a pass. Okay? No, music should be judged on the quality of music, not because, they sung about Jesus, it's good. No, I'm sorry. No, it gets judged right along with everything else. If you're a Christian rock band, you get judged with the greats of rock and roll. Right? That's not the way you get a pass. Well, the message is good, even though the music is. It should not work that way. Art should be judged according to what it is. If it's music, it's judged according to all music. And now you can put the lyrical content above other lyrical content, but a song contains more than just lyrics. It contains music, production, song structure, songwriting ability, music, the musical ability. Whether you're looking at the instruments, listen to that bass, listen to, and there's lots of things like that. So that's the only reason I bring it up is it's Kanye West. It's everyone was waiting for it. It's going to be talked about. I know I'm kind of late. I didn't even, after listening to the album, I didn't really want to even record on it. But I wanted to at least get something out there so you can think about it. All right, with all of that. So on one hand, in society, we're talking about Jesus is King by Kanye West, his Christian album. I don't know if I gave the name of the album, but it's Jesus is King. And so on one hand, we got people kind of in society talking about that. But as that is going on, we have this continuing downward spiral that is occurring within society. And I talked about this in my last live broadcast where we talked about the case of a 7-year-old who's, the mom thinks he's a transgender and he should be allowed to transition, if I can speak right. The father is trying to stop it, and it's a court case here in Texas. The governor's getting involved. It's a crazy case. And as I said in that live broadcast, this is very important. The issue that we need to talk about is the issue of reality. It's not an issue of LGBTQ. It's not an issue of transgender. It's not an issue of any of that. It's an issue of reality. There is such a thing as reality. And the reality is, males are males, not only because of their anatomy, but because of their genetic makeup. You can do this study. You can go look at the chromosomes. That's a male. Look at the body. There's two aspects there. You have the anatomy, and then you have genes. You have the very makeup of who that person is. Now I know that there can be medical exceptions where a person is born and their anatomy contains sexual organs of both. I understand different things like that can happen. We're talking the normal situation. Now that's a reality. Now, whether you don't like, what people say is you're confusing, different things. Sexual identity has nothing to do with what your genes say, your genetic makeup says, or your body says. It's your identity. So your body can say one thing, your genes can say one thing, but if you identify different, see, that's something else. And we have to make an exception for anyone out there who's like, you know what? I know, I got the body parts of a male. I know I am a male, but I don't feel like a male. So therefore, I am going to do everything in my power to change my body and my look so that I can be a female. And everyone else must go along with my identity. I identify now as a female. I'm going to do everything to look like a female. And you must call me now her, she. You must refer to me as a female. And that's an issue. This is an issue of reality. Someone doesn't identify with reality, and we are supposed to go along with them now rejecting what is real, and we must play along. This is an attack upon reality. And it reminds me of when Jesus was brought before Pilate. He's on trial. We got all these political acts going on, religious battles going on. And the Jews want Jesus crucified. Pilate's just trying to calm everyone down. He brings Jesus in. They have this conversation. And John chapter 18, verse 37, Pilate therefore said unto him, speaking of Jesus, art thou a king then? Right? Pilate wants to know, they're kind of trying to get you in trouble for treason. Are you a king? Are you a threat to Rome? Are you trying to plan a political revolution? Are you trying to overthrow the government? Are you a king? Jesus says, thou sayest that I am a king? To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. So Jesus brings this idea of truth into this back and forth between Pilate and Jesus as Jesus is on trial and Pilate's trying to decide what to do with him. Does he have him crucified? Does he release him? What does he do? Because Pilate is in a very difficult political situation if you know the story. But look how once Jesus introduces truth into the subject, look what Pilate says unto him. Pilate saith unto him, this is John 18:38, what is truth? What is truth? Now, we live in a society that has abandoned the idea of absolute truth. And now we live in a society that is now abandoning absolute reality. Reality is what you identify it to be, and then everyone must go along with it. That is the issue. Now, I bring this up because, well, once again, we have a news story about reality being denied. And reality being denied, once again, with real world consequences. In the last live broadcast, a mom wants to deny the reality that her son is a son, wants to claim that he actually, is transgender and he wants to transition. His dad is saying, hey, wait a minute, when he's around me, he doesn't want to wear girls' clothes. He wants to be called by, I think his name is James. He wants to be called by James, not Luna, like the mom says. No, he's a male. We're not going to do this. And the mom's like, no, he isn't. Someone in that relationship wants to deny reality, and it looks like it's the mom. And guess what's going to happen? She could ultimately destroy the child's future, turning him into something he isn't, because he's not Luna. He's James. He's a he. And he's 7, for crying out loud. And she wants to start hormone therapy, treatment. She wants to start completely, changing him internally. It's just frightening that this is, and a court is getting involved, and now the governor, because reality is under attack. Well, now we have another example of this. Here we go. Biologically male NCAA runner named Conference Female Athlete of the Week. We have a biological male who's been named the NCAA runner named Conference Female Athlete of the Week. A man has been named the Female Athlete of the Week by the NCAA. He's a man. He's biologically a male. But guess what? He's now the Female Athlete of the Week. And why? How could he be considered the Female Athlete of the Week? He identifies as a female, so guess what he gets to do? He gets to compete against the females. He gets to compete against the females. And guess what? He's going to have a physical advantage over those females and probably be extremely successful, which has happened in a number of very high-profile cases. Where a guy's like, hey, I think I'm a girl. I'm going to go compete with the girls. And then they win all the competitions. And then the girls are over there going, okay, well, society tells me I'm just supposed to go along with this. Society says this is a good thing. I think it's unfair. But the girls can't say they think it's unfair and that it's wrong because they don't stand a chance in many cases. If you've ever seen some of the video of these cases, you're like, look at that person. They're obviously bigger and stronger than all the women. Whoa, I wonder what? It's a man. It's a man. This is how far it has gone. Now you're impacting people's athletic pursuits. Let's read a little bit about this. The Big Sky Conference named University of Montana runner June Eastwood, a biological male who identifies as a transgender woman, the cross-country female athlete of the week. June Eastwood finished second in a field of 204 runners in the Santa Clara Bronco Invitational, helping Montana place 7th as a team. The conference noted in its announcement Tuesday, Eastwood previously competed on the University of Montana's men's team. Used to compete on the men's team. But, changed their mind. Now I'm a woman, and all of a sudden things change. But let me continue reading. The University of Montana athletic director previously cited NCAA policy and explaining why Eastwood was competing on the women's team. The NCAA allows male runners who identify as transgender women to compete in women's athletes after suppressing testosterone levels for a full calendar year. So if they suppress testosterone for one calendar year, then they can then, compete on the women's side. But, and now this is according to some scientific research seems to indicate that male athletes retain competitive advantage over female athletes even after suppressing testosterone. Even after they suppress it, they still seem to maintain some competitive advantage. That seems to be from a scientific standpoint. I would argue, I'm not going to be dogmatic in regards to that. More study needs to be done. But again, just think about this. We've got to do more study. We got to do more study. Why do we have to do more study? Why? He's biologically a male. You're biologically a male? Guess where you compete? Against the men. Against the men, because you're biologically a male. Now, if you want to dress up as a woman, you can do whatever you want. But see, this now impacts other people. This impacts other people. And it tries to force everyone else to go along with the idea. Let's continue reading here. Eastwood, whose accomplishment was first flagged by the College Fix, isn't alone in winning accolades in female athletics as a male athlete. Biological male runner C.C. Telfer, who identifies as a transgender woman, won an NCAA D2 national championship for Franklin Pierce University in May. Like Eastwood, Telfer competed in the university's men's team before later switching to the women's team. Biological male cyclist Rachel McKinnon won a women's world championship October the 19th. McKinnon won the sprint event in the women's 35 to 39 age category in the 2019 Master Track Cycling World Championship, taking home the gold medal for the second straight year. Two male runners have dominated girls' high school track in the state of Connecticut. Right? And why did they dominate? Because, well, they're males and they're beating all these girls, right? All right, let's continue here. The House of Representatives voted in May to pass the Equality Act, which would require schools to allow male athletes who identify as transgender girls to compete on female sports team. The bill had unanimous support among House Democrats, and it seems to be supported by every Democratic presidential forerunner. Right? Meaning that the election will have consequences. Now, let me make this very clear. This has nothing to do with transgender. This has something to do with reality. Has something to do with that's going to be continue the way I proclaim this and preach this and teach this and challenge people to deal with this. This is a reality issue. It's not a Christian issue. It's not a transgender issue. It's not a sex issue. You're not getting caught up into that, whether you feel like it's sin. I'm not even getting caught up in that. You're a biological male, compete with the men. Period. Now, unless you can absolutely 100% prove that a biological male, if they suppress testosterone for 1 calendar year, now they lose any male physical advantage that they would have over a woman. If you can absolutely document and prove that, then you can make an argument. Until then, if there's any question and they maintain some advantage, that's not fair. Here's an argument. If the women are competing against a biological male and the biological male maintains some advantage, then can the women take some form of steroid, some type of performance-enhancing drug to make themselves equal? But no, you can't do that. You can't take performance-enhancing drugs. That's illegal. Well, wait, in the male body, testosterone, it would be a possible natural physical enhancing performance substance that gives them greater strength and over a woman. That how do you look at this? How do you balance this out? This should come down to an issue. What is fair to the women? You want women to be able to compete in sports and be able to excel in sports. You want women's sports to be taken serious. It's hard to take it serious when you're looking at the women like, hey, I know you've worked hard, but you see that guy over there? Well, he thinks he's a girl. He's going to be coming over here to compete against you, so you're probably never going to get better than second. Sorry, but we support women. We want women to be treated equally. There's just something, I mean, what can you say? Now, again, I'm all for further research on men suppressing testosterone for a calendar year. I'm all for more research. I'm all for thinking about this through carefully, right? Now, my Christianity, clearly teaches me that God created man male and female. He created humans male and female, right? And that's the way it is unless something obviously occurs. And that if someone who's born a male, clearly a male from their anatomy to their genetic makeup, or clearly a female from their anatomy or their genetic makeup, and they start identifying as something other than that, then we need to have compassion, right? Not mocking, not making fun, not being subject to bullying, okay? But they need compassion, they need love, they need support, and listen carefully. They need to be helped. And you need to look at them and go, look, okay. I don't know why. I don't know what you're feeling. I can't understand what you're feeling. But what you're feeling goes against what is real. And because I'm your friend, because I have compassion on you, because I love you, we need to help your feelings match with what is reality. And the reality is you were born a male, you're born a female, and no matter how much you start taking things from your body, and my mind, it's almost meaningless mutilation of your body, no matter what clothes you wear, what makeup you put on, deep down, at the very genetic level, you're always going to be what you were born as. Now, in those situations, those rare situations where something occurs, at birth, and they have multiple, sexual organs, and those are complicated matters, and people need to have great compassion in that. People need to be given freedom and families to make very complicated and difficult decisions. But we're not going to use those as the excuse that anyone at any time decides that they're not what they were born as, and then we want to help support that and strengthen that. That is where I start having my problems. You're a he, you're a he. You're a she, you're a she. That's the way it is. If you don't feel that way, let's talk about that. I don't understand why. And it's going to be a horrible situation to not feel like you're who you are. I can't even comprehend that. I can't even wrap my mind around it. And I have nothing but sympathy and compassion for it. And nobody should be mocked or tortured or condemned for those feelings. The thing is, we have to help you with those feelings. We don't want to change your entire life because of those feelings. And then for you to walk around demanding everyone go along with how you feel. You can't convince me to just play along because it goes against reality. So that's what's happening. We're going to see more of this. And especially if the Democrats take back the Oval Office, if they take back that, build a majority in the House and Senate, then the Equality Act is ultimately going to pass, which is going to have profound impact on many segments of society. The Equality Act could pose many problems in lots of different ways, but it's going to continue to be an issue in universities and schools around the country as this weird track that society is. We kind of detoured, and it's something to be on. The church, though, will have a tendency to respond to it. I think, and typically we don't approach it in the right way. For example, I'll end with this. When the issue of homosexuality started becoming a big problem, and quote unquote a big problem in society, becoming a big issue from a society perspective, many Christians, their approach when homosexuals started arguing, I was born this way, therefore my homosexuality is okay. Christians would get into an argument. You were not born gay. You were not. And it's like, you just lost the argument. Let's not get into an argument whether you're born that way or not born that way, because I don't know how they were born. They could be born with all kinds of desires that I don't understand. Here's what we say from a biblical perspective. Doesn't matter how you were born from a biblical perspective. You were born gay, but guess what? I was born a sinner. And just because I was born a sinner, my sin is not excused. And just because you were born a homosexual, from a biblical perspective, your homosexuality is not excused. Being born a certain way doesn't excuse your actions if there is a transcendent morality that says something is right or says something is wrong. And if being born a certain way excuses behavior, then if a pedophile says they were born with a desire for young children, then do we actually condemn it? Now, we still may want to make laws to say, well, you can't do that because it hurts someone else. But can you actually say that being a pedophile is therefore wrong if you think being born a certain way excuses something? See, it comes down to truth. It comes down to reality. It comes down to morality. And we live in a society where there is no truth. Morality is relative. And morality is relative. There is no truth. There's no absolute truth. And now there's no longer any absolute morality. And when that occurs, society starts acting weird. But here's what's so bizarre to me. What if someone was born a racist? Does that justify their racism? In a society that no longer wants truth, and a society that wants relativistic morality, and a society that doesn't want reality, it's also a society that goes around saying, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's a society that goes around preaching morality all day long. The liberal world, all kinds of things are wrong. That's a hate crime. That's hate speech. That's wrong. That should be condemned. Pull down that statue of that historical figure because they did wrong things that was morally wrong. They have moral absolutes, but at the same time, they preach moral relativism. Our society is in a transitional phase. And it's like people are contradicting their own selves. Morality is relativistic. However, that is wrong. Absolutely. Because no one can operate in a morally relativistic world. And when people argue that truth is relative, they turn right back around and act that there's absolute truth. And when they argue that reality is based off how an individual feels, we'll then turn around and argue for reality in other areas. So, something to think about. All right, well, I'll stop right there. There's a lot more I would like to talk about on this Saturday. I would like to get to Romans chapter 4. I really would. But I won't. All right, that's kind of what's going on in our society. We got an album, Jesus is King. Everyone's talking and debating about it. And we have a male who was just named the NCAA Athlete of the Week for the female world. The female athlete of the week, even though he's a biological male, which continues an ongoing trend that is happening in different parts of the country where men, who now identify as women, get to go compete against the women. And in most cases, they're extremely successful, if not outright just win, and win. And the women are left going, so I don't have any chance of beating that unless I can do something to enhance my performance. So why can't I take this drug or this drug? Oh, well, you can't do that because you'll be tested and you'll be found not to be competing fairly. Well, that male over there seems to be doing pretty good. Is that fair? But I guess you can't ask that question because, well, that would be bigoted and transphobia and all the other things that would be leveled against it. It's an interesting time. Christians need to be smart, and we need to think carefully and try to give very thoughtful, careful responses to what is happening. All right, we'll stop right there. Everyone have a great Saturday. Tomorrow is Sunday. Please be in a Bible-believing church. Please, please, please support it with your time. Support it with your attention. Support it with your financial gifts because churches need that. And for those using the VBC 66 app, just be praying that everything works out well and we can give you an app that accomplishes everything we want to accomplish and will give you access to hopefully information that will keep you informed and challenge you spiritually. All right, everyone have a great day. God bless.